California Scholar Showcase. This is our final Scholar Showcase of the academic year, and we're excited to wrap things up with our Northern California supporters. And with our new scholars, there's a lot of you on here, and we're really excited to have you join us. My name is Nicole Rizzuto, and I am the Development Manager for Engagement and Advancement here at Point Foundation. The goal of these showcases is really to make sure that we stay connected with our donors and our supporters across the country while physically distancing. We've been physically distanced for over a year now, and we want to make sure that we keep you up to date with the accomplishments of our scholars and our mentors. In a few minutes, you'll hear from Vanessa Warri, one of our Point scholars, and her mentor, Jenny Davidson-Goldbronn, and they'll be in conversation answering questions that were submitted by participants prior to the event and by Point staff members. But first, I'd like to introduce you to our moderator, Ted Farley. Ted is Point Foundation's Deputy Executive Director, and he plays a direct role in the mentorship process by connecting Point scholars with their mentors. Prior to joining Point in 2015, Ted served as the Executive Director of the It Gets Better Project, which is an international nonprofit organization working to provide support and resources for LGBTQ young people. Prior to that, Ted attended George Washington University for his undergrad and received his Juris Doctorate from Brooklyn Law School. He began his career as an attorney with the Urban Justice Center in New York City, where he established free legal clinics for LGBTQ people and for survivors of domestic violence. Ted received the Courage Award from the Anti-Violence Project in recognition for his contributions to the LGBTQ+ community, and he was selected as a member of the Arcus Foundation's inaugural class of Leadership Fellows in 2014. Ted is a leading force here at Point, and I'm honored to introduce him as our moderator. Welcome, Ted. Oh, Ted, I think you might be muted. Ted, while you try to fix that, are you okay with me? Yes, I will read their bios. Perfect. Okay, so let me pull up the bios. Hold on one second, everyone. I apologize for the slight technical difficulties. So first, I'm going to introduce Vanessa Warri, who is one of our current Point scholars. And Vanessa is a current graduate student at UCLA. She is a Nigerian-American community-based researcher, strategist, and advocate committed to the liberation, empowerment, and safety of Black transgender women, queer and transgender people of color, and all communities existing at the various intersections of oppression. For over 12 years, Vanessa has provided empowerment-based direct services and peer education for transgender communities, LGBTQIA+ young people, and system-involved individuals. I think Ted is good. Maybe. Oh, now he can't unmute.
All right, can you hear me now?
Yes.
Woo! Wow. Like a year and a half into this pandemic, working remotely, all this kind of craziness, and here we are still. When it comes time for things to get going, you encounter that technical difficulty. So I'm going to start by thanking everybody for their patience. I'm also going to say welcome. I am so pleased to bring you all together today so that we can have this conversation about Point, about Vanessa, and about Jenny, Vanessa's mentor. And I don't know where we left off since I wasn't in the room. So did we get through both bios?
You have a lot of faith in me, Ted. No, I just got to the point in which I introduced Vanessa's work with LGBTQIA+ individuals and people in the system.
Fantastic. And so I'm going to conclude that bio on Vanessa by saying we met Vanessa here at Point Foundation in 2018 when she started with us as an undergraduate scholar while receiving a double major in anthropology and sociology at the University of California in Los Angeles. Vanessa was named a Point Scholar again when she chose to pursue a graduate degree in get both her master's and her PhD in social welfare, again at UCLA, but this time with the Luskin School of Public Affairs. So Vanessa, thank you so much for joining us. And I'm really excited to get talking to you about your work and then also your relationship with Jenny as your mentor. So we're also joined today by Jenny Davidson-Goldbronn. Jenny is a leadership coach, an organizational strategist, a facilitator and fundraiser with more than 25 years of professional experience. She's been in leadership roles at some of Los Angeles's preeminent institutions, including the UCLA AIDS Institute at the David Geffen School of Medicine, Children's Hospital Los Angeles, AIDS Project Los Angeles, and the Jewish Federation. In 2014, Jenny founded her consultancy from Davi-Gold LLC, where she provides organizational strategy and program development, leadership development, and coaching. Her clients range from grassroots organizations to university systems. Jenny has a strong commitment to the LGBTQ community as a consultant, lay leader, and donor, along with her wife, who serves on various boards. She's a proud Point Foundation mentor and a supporter for many years. Jenny holds a BA in sociology from Brandeis University and a master's in psychology from Pepperdine University. She's a certified executive coach through the esteemed Hudson Institute of Coaching, and she completed the Stanford Business Leadership Series with the Stanford University Graduate School of Business. Jenny, thank you so much for joining us today. It is an honor and a pleasure to be able to have the both of you in conversation today. So, Vanessa, I want to start by this is the Northern California Scholar Showcase. And I just spoke a little bit about the fact that you're a student at UCLA. Knowing what I know about you, however, I know that a lot of your story is rooted in Northern California and rooted in San Francisco. And so I'm wondering if you could talk a little bit about your journey in those times prior to UCLA and the work you might have been doing up in Northern California and why it may still be near and dear to your heart.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Most of my story is rooted in the Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area. It's really where I found myself. It's where I found my community. And it's where I got a sense for the work. As I've said, many different platforms. I was a former foster youth, former homeless young adult in the streets of San Francisco trying to find my way and find my community. And that's really what led me to the realization that there are going to be several generations of folks who are going to be experiencing the same things as I did, and how I might lend myself to this movement by supporting any endeavors with advocacy or jumping right into the work, providing case management services with youth who were getting ready to emancipate from the foster care system, which is how I got my start initially working with emancipated foster youth in both San Francisco and Oakland. And then that sort of expanded as I started to connect with more communities, learn more about myself. My work also expanded to include different representations of myself in the San Francisco Bay Area community, from working with LGBTQ youth to, trans women of color, young trans girls, really just supporting them because I knew when I was coming up, I didn't have that same level of support. And it was really important for me to do the work of breaking these generational curses that we talk about, where, we show up for the next generation and provide them the support that we were not afforded, in hopes that they can go even further than we were.
Thank you for that. And so, being rooted in the work, it seems as though at some point there was also this drive towards, for lack of a better term, academia. And that's sort of how we got to know you, right? And so can you talk a little bit about finding point and what particularly appealed to you and your needs at that moment?
Yeah, so, I was still currently working in community-based direct services. I was a coworker with 2 Point alums who consistently were telling me that I would be this great fit for Point Foundation. However, I was not there in my educational journey, but they still supported me in every single cycle. They kept telling me, are you ready to transfer? Are you ready to apply? And when the time came for me to apply to Point Foundation, they were actually really instrumental in providing me the support and the feedback that I needed to really, stand out as an applicant for Point Foundation. Point Foundation was really important to me because as a Black transgender woman who came from the streets of San Francisco and, was sort of on the front lines in nonprofit work, in a rapidly gentrifying city. You can imagine thinking about education, dreaming about pursuing higher education didn't really seem like a reality until I heard about the support that Point Foundation offers its scholars, and not just the money, but the mentorship and the connection to amazing LGBTQ leaders nationally, other scholars. It just seemed like the missing link, so to speak. It was what I was missing, and it was what I was looking for. Really, like the next phase of my journey and my adventure.
That's great. And so then, right, you go through our endless selections process. And for those who might not be familiar, point selections process starts with a sort of, electrically submitted application, and then there are several more rounds. And so each year we have about 2,000 people apply. I believe Vanessa's year we might have had 25 students selected as scholars of those 2,000 applicants. So it's a intense process, and one of the first things we ask our students to begin thinking about is what they're looking for in a mentoring relationship. It's a central component of the programming that we do in setting our students up with mentors, but we do want to ask them to think about, what those needs actually are. And so, Vanessa, what was that moment like for you? Having an opportunity to say, I might be able to ask them for something that I haven't asked before, or, what were you thinking, and what were you specifically perhaps looking for out of a mentoring relationship?
Yeah, I mean, you said it really well. I think, coming from San Francisco, where I was born and raised, my hometown, my community was really small and tight knit. I was really looking for an opportunity to receive as many new experiences as I possibly could. I was looking for a new perspective. I was looking for, especially from a mentor, somebody who, I didn't necessarily see myself having access to. Didn't think of myself as being able to access, someone who could take everything that I was envisioning and dreaming, because anyone who knows me knows that I am a daydreamer, I am a visionary, I love thinking about the future in really limitless ways. And so looking for someone who had a strategic mind, who can sort of help focus that vision and help add a perspective rooted in experience, someone who had been out there doing the work a lot longer than I had, someone who was well connected and knew how I could take my vision and make it more concrete. And that's just something that, I had a friend who really encouraged me, even as I left the Bay Area. And she said to me, you have to leave home in order to get these new experiences. You have to seek out the new and get outside of that comfort zone and that bubble, because that's where you will learn so much about who you are and so much about what you're capable of. And, so I think I took that and I applied that to my mentorship quest as well. I wanted someone that I had never met with before, a type of energy, a type of personality, a type of professional that I did not have access to, and historically Black trans women are not given access to. So that these are all of the things that were swimming in my mind when Point was asking me to think about what kind of mentor I would want.
Yeah, just a short list. So Jenny, we talked about that 25 selected out of 2,000 applicants, and then one day you're contacted by somebody at Point Foundation who says, we think you might be a good fit for this person, and part of what we send to folks in that moment is the bio. And having spent some time reading Vanessa's bio, having spent some time already hearing from us for the folks who are listening right now, this is an impressive person. What was your response and expectation going into sort of this new mentoring relationship?
Well, I'll start with the word awe, Ted. I would say that the notion of awe in its truest sense has been a through line of our relationship. And of course it started in reading Vanessa's bio. And I had a moment where I was like, me? And I don't think I'm alone as a mentor to have that inquiry in terms of, wow, I potentially was selected as a mentor for this incredible leader. So my journey was one of awe and then gratitude for the opportunity to serve in this capacity.
So can either of you do a little storytelling around that first conversation? Because I think something, that I always try and imagine is like, it's got to be a little bit awkward, right? There's some pressure built up, there's some expectations, and yet there's always that first conversation. So what was that like for you? Any one of you can start.
Oh, Vanessa, you go.
Okay, sure. It was a moment, because not only was this our first time meeting, I was brand spanking new to Los Angeles. And so, I'll never forget, I didn't even know where West Hollywood was. I didn't know like where anything was, but I was going to meet, this woman who was my mentor at Tender Greens in West Hollywood for a dinner and an introductory catch up. And, I'm in an Uber, completely lost, but thoroughly excited, right? 'Cause this is all part of my adventure and journey. And, I pull up and, I immediately see Jenny inside, and, I go in, and she just turned around, and she's just hi in this very like sweet and loving and welcome voice. And it was just so calm. And we ordered our food and sat down and almost jumped immediately into conversation. And we talked for a while. I mean, and it was in that moment that I think I knew, and I've said several times, I was like, oh, Point Foundation is good. They did this, because the way that we were just organically able to fall into conversation, and listen to each other and hear each other. When I spoke, Jenny had this way of reflecting what she heard to me that like she said, awe. I was in awe, because I was like, wow, this is really something. Like, this match is great. She is going to be able to hear all of the subtext and all of like the deeper meat of what I'm saying that I may not be able to articulate in the moment. And it's because she was listening with her heart. And I think we sat at that Tender Greens for like 2 hours, just talking before she was like, I have to go. I have a wife at home I have to get dinner to. You have to go. You have school. But it was just such a great first meeting. And I was just so excited to do this work. I was like, great. So let's start this now. Let's jump in.
Jenny, interested to hear, sounds like, you'll surprise us if you now say you didn't have any fun in that first meeting, but what was it like for you?
Oh my Lord. Well, I will say, I too had the moment of, wow, Point. Wow, this stuff is magical. It felt magical. So I sat in front of an orchestra that first meal with Vanessa Warri. I saw her universe. I saw your universe, and listened to it, witnessed how wide and vast and possible it was. Like massive visionary, evident from the first moment we sat down. And I saw in listening where I could support her, and what a privilege and a joy. I was elevated during and after leaving, and I could not wait to get started in working with Vanessa. I could go on and on, but I'm sparing everybody.
Well, I think, so Vanessa, there are some real challenges that accompany being new to a city, now being, sort of all of a sudden showing up at UCLA being like, okay, I'm going to finish my undergraduate degree in 2 years, despite how long it might have taken me to get to this point, ready, go, right? So there seems like there may have been a moment of real challenge. in many different ways. Was there for you, and did you utilize your relationship with Jenny in any way during those moments?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I was 28 years old when I left my hometown and my home everything for the very first time. And I was in a brand new place and in a brand new experience. And, it was pretty scary in the beginning and pretty isolating. And, how I compensated for that was just sort of pouring myself into my schoolwork and into my work and staying busy. I'm a Virgo, if that helps anybody understand that. So whenever I'm a little overwhelmed, I tend to pour myself into my work and focus up. And Jenny was really helpful in our weekly check-ins, or whenever it was that we were checking in, or even the inspiring texts and motivational texts that she would send me regularly to let me know that she was thinking about me. She would send really timely, spiritual, insightful, inspiring messages that were just right on time. Whenever I needed it. And she was always sure to check in on my capacity and my workload. And that was really important for someone who sort of compartmentalized in a way in which I was really just going hard in school, so as not to have to deal with the fact that I was in a new space and a new place and sort of all of the other uncomfortabilities that comes with that kind of growth. So yeah, Jenny was definitely a big help in helping me establish an anchor in Los Angeles.
Thank you. And Jenny, something I think our mentors will also talk to us about on a relatively frequent basis is, I'm challenged by the fact that I don't share too much in common with the scholar that I've been paired with. How do you bridge those differences? How do you welcome those differences?
Mm-hmm.
What do you do within the relationship to kind of reflect what you're aware of in terms of Vanessa's lived experiences that you do not know,
Mm-hmm.
while simultaneously trying to be as much of a valued relationship with her as possible?
Absolutely. It's such a fundamental question for mentors to reflect upon seriously. So I'll start with our similarities, which are of spirit and mind. And so there's a transcendence that was evident almost upon meeting that enabled what could be perceived as all kinds of differences, which do exist as barriers. So the willingness to dwell in connection and to discover the ethereal, for lack of a better word. There's reasons why we're connected that are beyond our professional domain, so to speak, even though that's a primary reason why we work together. So dwelling in what is common ground is fundamental in cultivating that. And I would say that the notion of our differences is something we had to embrace, first person singular, something I had to embrace and own. And that was and has been and continues to be a journey for us as a partnership, because I have a particular presence in this world that comes with all kinds of bells and whistles. And that means a lot in terms of how I show up. And what that means for me as a mentor is to discover and rediscover where I begin and end, where I need to listen, where I need to talk, where I need to stop talking, and learn. So I have to be willing to step aside regularly as part of my mentorship so that Vanessa can grow and lead, because it's not about me.
So Jenny, that leads me to another question for you. What's something that you found challenging about this undertaking in this relationship?
Well, I'd say last year was one big challenge. And, I'll say the complexity and pain of last year brought up all kinds of challenges. Race, gender, socioeconomic status, healthcare access. I mean, we could just go on and on and on and on. And those are very real and present. I was more aware of my privilege than I've ever been.
Vanessa, despite the challenges of last year, you know, there were some tremendous things happening for you. Can you talk a little bit about some of those things that have happened over this past year? Maybe, you know, what got you most excited and what you're most excited for?
Yeah, yeah. Last year, despite being really rough and full of feels and challenges, had a lot of amazing things. I mean, for starters, I was able to reapply for Point Foundation as a graduate scholar, which was great. And with that, I was able to become the first Black trans woman to be accepted into the dual MSW PhD at UCLA. I was able to support another elder and mentor of mine, Miss Kyan Doroshow at Glitz in New York, with all of her endeavors to bring sustainable housing to her community. I got to spend a lot of time learning from her and really helping with her vision as well, which was really uplifting and inspiring. And just in general, I received a lot of support from my community, from my elders, with regard to pursuing my doctoral program, which begins in September. And all of these things were just so transformational. And it really, really is an example of a life in balance, because even though last year was really, really rough and I held a lot of that, you know, the countless death of Black trans lives, the police brutality against Black bodies, the murder of George Floyd. And with that, you know, I have this opportunity to represent my community within academia. I have the opportunity to expand upon the existing body of knowledge and add nuance and perspective in ways that we have not been able to historically be brought to the table to do. And I had the support of my community. I had the support of Point Foundation. I had the support of my mentor to make this happen. And all of it was really transformational for me. Again, like, I come from a community, I come from a small place in the Bay Area where we are pigeonholed in what we're able to do in terms of the work that we're able to do and what support actually looks like. And it's gotten to change a lot over the past years as I keep my ear close to the ground and what's going on in San Francisco. And I'm so proud of what's going on in the Bay Area. And yet to know that we could do more, and I am going to have this opportunity to do more. It's just done wonders, and I just wish that more Black trans women, more young Black trans people could get to experience this as well, and that's the work that I'm hoping to carve more lanes for.
That's beautiful. Thank you. So I think Nicole mentioned at the start of this conversation that we're actually joined by some of our newest scholars for this year. And they are the ones who are very soon going to be having the conversation, if they haven't already, with our senior program director, Darren Wilstead, about, you know, what do you want from this mentoring relationship? And understanding that and kind of prefacing this for everybody who's paying attention now, you know, this is one relationship. This is representative of one pairing, this pairing in particular. This is not what all of them look like, but I think this is such a tremendous example of a student who was able to articulate precisely how they could be most fulfilled through this unique opportunity. So Vanessa, pressure's on. You know, you get the opportunity to talk to this new Point scholar. You know, what advice do you have for them in terms of thinking about a mentor pairing?
You got it. First off, congratulations, everyone. I know what you went through, and congratulations, you deserve it. Amazing. My advice, just like Ted said, take some time to think about what you would want. Take some time to think about what you would need. I'm almost thinking of this in terms of like a self-assessment, the tools that you already have that you bring to the table, and versus, where could be poured into more. What is it that would elevate you? What is it that you really need, whether that is, you know, in business or academically, or just take some time to think about your vision more thoroughly. Take some time to have a vision, daydream, think about what you have that you show up with that's already complete, so that you might think, okay, well, what can I ask point for? What can I start having them look for in a mentor that would help me build upon what I already have and what I know I will get for myself along my educational journey? I think be willing to go completely left of your comfort zone. Like, so I will pass on the wisdom that was passed on to me. Step out of your comfort bubble, engage with new energy, engage with new perspective, because you will reforge yourself with both what you bring and what your mentor will bring to you. It's okay if you have differing views, right? Like, Jenny and I, as Jenny has shared, like we have not always seen eye to eye, but it is a moment where we get to choose radical empathy and radical compassion for each other, which is another piece that I will share. Have radical empathy and radical compassion in all that you do, and especially in these new relationships that you forge. And realize that you are an equal partner here. So as much as your mentor is a teacher for you, you're a teacher for your mentor as well. And you both will shape each other along this journey. And just be open. I think one of my biggest learning objectives has been, to not have too rigid of an idea of what I want, even though I came through with this very perfectly articulated vision of what I wanted. Over time, I have seen how that has changed, how it's needed to change, how my mentor has helped me see the need for it to change, for it to be scaled back. Take it as an adventure. Like, you will learn everything that you need to know along this journey. Take the time for the vision, trust the process, and you are already more than enough, and you're more than worthy. This is all just extra. Yeah, congratulations again.
I love that. And Jenny, I think being with Vanessa, and so for the folks who are listening, Vanessa and Jenny were paired initially when Vanessa was in her undergraduate studies, and then we went back and had that conversation again when Vanessa was selected as a graduate student. And it was, yes, I would like to be. We can keep going with this Jenny person. But but Jenny, I think much of what Vanessa has experienced is unique, right? But there are some characteristics, this drive, this, am I taking on too much? It doesn't really matter, I'm capable. Sort of, attitude that not attitude, it really is character, that leads to someone like Vanessa, who is seeing these levels of success. That is not uncommon in what we see amongst our Point Foundation students. As a mentor, do you have any sage words of wisdom or advice for our new students who might be similarly driven as Vanessa is?
Well, I also want to commend you for this incredible accomplishment. You all are brilliant, and you are necessary, and you're needed. And What an honor. Congratulations. You're not responsible for the world, and you're not going to do it in 4 years either, or 2 years, or 6, whatever your engagement is. So easy does it. You have everything it takes. And ease up a little as much as you possibly can. I recognize that you may not be able to, and that's okay too. That's your nature, your brilliance, your purpose. So all is well. Yeah, all is well.
I like that. So let's continue that all is well thread. And we're getting close to wrapping up. Jenny, I'm wondering, we've been through this last year with regard to the LGBTQ plus community, with regard to young people who are making a difference in this world, with regard to anything else that might be speaking to you at this moment. What are you excited for?
In what capacity?
In this next year for you, and for Vanessa.
Oh my gosh, what am I excited for in this next year? I will say in this context to continue to be a witness and do what I can to support Vanessa and others in being brilliant as they were born to be. That's my job. And that brings me joy.
And Vanessa, what do you think this year is going to look like for you? And what are you excited for?
Oh my God, I'm starting my PhD.
Oh my God.
What this next year is going to look like for me. But it's really exciting because I'm going to get an opportunity to really demonstrate and lead something that's never been done before. I'm going to get a chance to elevate what has already been said for generations by many queer and trans communities of color, that has been unheard for so long. I'm going to get a chance to work with community, in such a way that elevates all of our narratives and helps to uplift the evidence-based practices that have already existed in our communities, and highlight them in a way that is useful for academia and for this larger body of knowledge, but also shakes things up a bit. And, my existence is resistance, and my presence at UCLA in and of itself is radical and a political act. And so the fact that this next year I will be starting my doctoral program and engaging with this work in a different capacity than I ever knew was possible. My hope is that I will be able to create a lot of new lanes for young queer and trans Black folks to increase their engagement and their interest in community-based research. My hope is that I will be able to inspire and awaken the knowledge that already lives within the community, that sometimes universities can make you feel like you don't have. But I'm just excited to innovate, and I'm just excited to work with my community in this capacity and create a new brand of research and really transform social welfare.
Great. So I think one of the things that we talked about is that, Point's mission is essentially to assist students to achieve their full academic and leadership potential despite the obstacles that they may encounter along the way. And this conversation has just been such a wonderful illustration of the ways in which, through becoming a part of Point, there's just been a little bit more support to help somebody who was already doing the work, somebody who may have done the work regardless, do it with a little bit more of a community, and perhaps some things that at some really important times provided some motivation, support, encouragement, love, whatever the case may be, really is what we try and do here. I'm very grateful to everybody who joined us today and and our supporters who allow us to continue to do that kind of work. And Jenny and Vanessa, thank you so incredibly much. I'm gonna turn it back over to Nicole, who will wrap us out. But thank you both so much. This has been a pleasure. As I have to say, I expected it would be, but I could go on going for ages. And I will meet you both at Tender Greens whenever you would like to.
Thank you so much to Vanessa and to Jenny for joining us, and really for such an honest and authentic conversation. I think that this conversation really does show why Point Foundation is so necessary and how we've really helped to create and support the leaders of the LGBTQ community in the future. If you were inspired like I was inspired tonight, Vanessa is not the first scholar to tell me that college seemed unattainable before they found out about Point Foundation. So please feel free to donate and learn more about our scholars at pointfoundation.org. You can also learn more specifically about our Northern California scholars at pointnorcal.fundraise.org. I'm going to put that in the chat so you can all find that URL. Please make sure that you check your emails and the website, pointfoundation.org, in the coming days. Our flagship scholars and our community college scholars have already been announced for the next academic year, and our BIPOC scholars will be announced on Wednesday. We will be supporting 322 LGBTQ scholars from across the country during the 2021-2022 academic year. It's the most we've ever supported, which is fitting because it's our 20th anniversary. To all of the new scholars, welcome. We're so excited to have you here. I hope that this conversation has inspired you to find the right mentor or coach for you. Ted and Darren are going to be great in making sure that you make the connections that you need to. But really, thank you all for being here. Thank you for putting up with our slight tech glitch. I really appreciate everyone staying on during that. Happy Pride. We got 3 more days, and have a great night. Bye, everyone.